What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Homertown Hockey. And tonight we're doing something a little different. We're calling this Homertown Hijinx, and I'll go over why we're doing that in a minute. But tonight I have with me Phil Bittner.
Wow, you're way better at intros than me.
No. And Trenton Fuller.
What's the difference between jam and jelly?
No, I know the ending of this joke already.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Let's hear
Jam
it.
is made with mashed fruit and jelly is made with fruit juice.
Okay, wow. I knew that. I know the alternate ending to that joke.
I think everybody knows the alternate ending to that joke.
I actually don't know the alternate ending to that joke.
We'll tell you after the podcast.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So anyways, getting back to what we're doing here tonight. Like I said earlier, special episode, we're calling it Homertown Hijinks. And that is going to kind of be an umbrella name for everything that we're going to do that's not directly related to talking about the stuff that happened during the week. So
This
say we
isn't
want to play a
canon.
game or... Yeah, this isn't canon. So say we want to have play a game, we want to do a discussion topic, or even if we want to do a little history of, something, we're going to put it under the Homertown Hijinks umbrella. And tonight we're going to do our first little mini episode, and it's going to be a discussion / debate / whatever you want to call it. But tonight we're going to go over the biggest rule changes that have affected the game since 2000. Really, it's since 2005, but we're going to just say 2000 as an umbrella term because that's around when all three of us was really getting into hockey. So, you boys ready to get into this? You got into it in 95. I was 5. I was. You got into it in the mid 90s. Got into it in like 2001.
I got into
Right
the
about
Penguins in the mid 90s. I got into like hockey in probably like 99. But yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Trent? You ready to do this?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, cool. So we're going to start off with the biggest rule changes in the last 2 decades or so, which was the year 2005, 2006, where the NHL implemented a bunch of rule changes, and here are some of the biggest ones. They eliminated the red line, which in turn led to the elimination of the 2-line pass. There was no change for the team that iced the puck. The trapezoid rule was implemented, which started with a trapezoid stretching out 2 feet from either goalpost, and then also the instigator rule, which we can get into later, which assessed a penalty to anybody who was viewed to instigate a fight if the fight didn't get initiated. 2005, 2006. What do you boys think about the rules that were implemented in that time?
Fuck you, Martin Brodeur.
Yeah, the trapezoid rule is pretty fucking stupid. The instigator rule is pretty fucking stupid. The no line change on the icing I like, because there wasn't really... Was that also when the puck over the glass rule came in along with that? Yeah, I like that because it helped, just... teams can't just clear the puck out anymore, like, recklessly, and not have any consequence other than a face-off, which... with a tired line, you'd rather have a face-off in your own zone with fresh legs than be chasing around. I forget what else you said. I did not take any notes.
It's fine. They do have that, no change for the team that iced the puck. I think ended up being a good rule because I don't hear anybody complain about it anymore. Either people have just accepted it or that it seems natural, I guess, that, hey, if you ice the puck, you shouldn't get to line change in your zone, It seems pretty natural. Trent, you seem to have a big reaction to Marty Brodeur.
Oh, no.
What's up with that?
I just know he was the main reason for the trapezoid being, like, outlawed or whatever.
Or being implemented?
Inside the trapezoid, yeah. Inside the trapezoid allowed, but, yeah, I don't think that any... I mean, I think that the players nowadays would be able to recognize what was going on and be able to stop it. But I think it's safety for the goalie. I mean, I guess if he's out the crease that much, somebody could run him. But
As much
I
as
really
I
don't see a reason for that.
As much as I kind of think the trapezoid's a dumb rule, I kind of get it because, it's coming off like trying to get rid of the dead puck era. And when the goalie could go out and play pucks in the corner like that, you couldn't chip it into the zone and chase after it. And in some ways, I don't know, I kind of hate chip and chase just because sometimes you see games where that's all it really is. But then at the same time, it's, having to carry it through the neutral zone and to take the offensive zone. Sometimes that leads to those games. Even worse than watching a game in chip and chase is watching a game played entirely in the neutral zone. And that was something that was more prone to happen. And especially, with Brodeur, besides being a good puck handler, the main reason for him was that they were just so good at that trap. So that would be kind of the only way was to chip it in. And then you have a goalie that's good at it behind that good trap team. And you just couldn't really take the zone on the Devils.
No, you couldn't. And so you also kind of got a little too used to that era of goalies that just handled the puck to almost slow the pace of the game down. But now that it's kind of transitioned from goalies handling the puck to them just leaving the puck back there. Yeah. You have guys waiting for 5-10 seconds behind the net, whether looking for a break, especially on the power play. You see it all the time. Yeah. They're kind of way around that now, which, whatever. I mean, and then eventually they did extend the trapezoid a little bit, because I do remember in the beginning of the original trapezoid era, they didn't necessarily like it because they felt it was too, it was harder for them to come around the post and play a puck or stop a puck. And now they have a little bit more space to do that. For me personally, I think the rule, because 05-06 was a CBA, right? That's why all these got implemented, because this was post-lockout.
Well, 04-05 was the lockout year, so the 05-06 season was when that all kicked in,
Yeah, so this is under the new CBA, and that new CBA eliminated the hard red line, which in turn eliminated a 2-line pass. And I think since then, you've just seen goals exponentially go up. And I think it's actually a pretty good thing for the game, where you see scoring go up. You see the pace of the game move a little bit faster. You see some bigger stretch passes. I like the rule. I don't think anybody hates not having the 2-line pass in. Nobody's sitting here going, damn it, the 2-line pass should still be a thing.
Well, and the 2-line pass wasn't even a rule for very long.
5 years, I think?
I think it was longer than that, because it was a rule when I was a kid and, first started, really when I say, I got into the Penguins in 95, I mean, hockey's a visually appealing sport when you're a kid. I liked when they were on TV, and I knew who Mario Lemieux was when I was, 5. I didn't really know the rules. That's why when I say, 99, I was going to my first Penguins game when I was in Pittsburgh for winter break, and leading up to it, my dad was showing me games to help me understand the rules before we went to the game. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know when that rule came into effect, but
sometime in the 90s.
Yeah, my earliest memories of hockey and understanding the rules, the 2-line pass was in effect. I believe it was well before that, though, just because those early Devils teams with Danico and stuff, I believe, also kind of took advantage of that. And that was after a certain point, man, keeping track of years, I have an 8-year span where I remember, by the year what happened. And then beyond that, it's kind of like goldfish memory. I know it happened, but I don't remember when.
Should we get into the instigator penalty?
Yeah, we could do that.
All right. What do you boys think of the instigator penalty and what that did or didn't do for the NHL? Trent, if you want to start this one.
I really don't kind of understand the instigator penalty. I mean, I know what it's supposed to be, but why would you need a penalty for that when you just get a fighting major? I don't understand why they had to I feel like it's them just trying to get fighting out of the game. They're trying to make people not want to do it anymore because you get more penalties on top of the 5 minutes as well.
Well, I think what that comes down to, I understand the need for it in theory, you know, the matching 5 isn't enough when one guy jumps the other guy and the other guy has to fight just to defend himself. But I think where its flaw in practice comes is, so that's a good idea, but then that does make it now, like, you know, people talk about, like, as a Penguins fan, we always have people saying we've got to get someone that can beat up Tom Wilson. And first of all, he's been in over 60 fights. You're not going to punch the way he plays out of him. And that's the case with a lot of players. So there's already that aspect where fighting does fail to an extent as far as a means of policing the game. But also, ideally, instigating would be allowed after a dirty hit or something. And you wouldn't get in trouble if you jump the guy. And that could be a deterrent. And again, that's a good idea in theory. But in practice, that means the NHL refs have to sit down and determine whether or not a guy deserved to get beat up. And that's kind of a tough call in a sport that's being plagued with lawsuits for brain injury.
Right.
But, you know, at the same time, like, you know, it gives shitheads like Brad Marchand free reign to run around and do whatever they want. And all they have to do is say no to a fight, and you can't do anything about it unless you want to give them a power play.
Marchand wouldn't say no to a fight, though. So.
I just wanted to... I thought you'd react more than that. Just like the two-line pass allows cherry pickers like David Pasternak to thrive.
All right, hold on.
That one got it. There it is.
There we go. We got it.
Say that with Ovi being the best goal scorer of this generation. He just cherry picks more than anybody. Still.
So, I mean, it's hard to say he cherry picks when nobody even is in his vicinity when he's sitting on the left circle.
That's the exact definition of cherry picking.
When those pucks in their zone and he's just sitting there wide open because nobody bothers to cover Ovechkin, that's your own problem.
Yeah.
And I feel like every team does that.
Well, I mean, the thing with the Capitals, why it works for them is they have other weapons. You know, if you could try to shadow Ovechkin, but then you're having people play man up on Nicholas Backstrom while Tom Wilson bangs around in your crease.
Damn.
You really don't want Tom Cruise banging around in your crease.
No, you don't. Scientology.
No. He
My
starts
biggest
jumping
thing-
up and down on couches.
Got to make sure your fucking L. Ron Hubbard shrine looks good.
Fucking fish in the mouth.
My biggest thing against the instigator penalty, I don't want to say it's my thing. It's more of like I guess in theory I don't have a giant issue with it. I do think it gives credence to guys like just Bergeron because that's who he is. It gives those kind of players that leverage to just say, no, bro, I'm not fucking fighting you, like Phil said. A point that I do think it got rid of is it got rid of the Guardian in the NHL. I mean, you look back at guys like Gretzky or even Lemieux to a sense, and they always had a big grinder on their line to kind of just be like, yeah, don't touch him. And if you do, you're going to get your shit rocked. And that kind of killed
that more.
Right. You kind of, the grinder guardian role of the NHL got killed. And I'll hear the argument that, no, the grinder still exists in the NHL. But the true fourth line grinder doesn't really exist anymore. And a lot of it has to do with implementations of things like the instigator rule or what we'll get into later with head collision or, the NHL's new hitbox rules, that kind of thing.
Hey, where are we at when there's no place for great players like Tanner Glass in the NHL anymore?
Right.
No, I mean, I understand the theory behind it, and I think there's things about it that work and things that don't. I know the popular opinion is to say get rid of the instigator, but, I don't think people realize how much a star player could just get jumped. And yeah, the Guardian would be out there, but what if the other team has two tough guys?
Right.
Then once that Guardian's in the box, then your star player's unprotected, unless you want to take him out for 5 minutes, and that, ultimately it still rewards the other team.
Is any team still playing that sort of style hockey, though? I feel like that wouldn't be a problem nowadays.
There would be teams that would do it, though.
I also think people underestimate the level of targeting there truly is in the NHL. Because I've heard guys talk about, you listen to any of the podcasts or you listen to guys talk that are out there, and they know who's hurt, who's playing hurt. They know who's what's ailing guys, or they know where to target guys. So people saying oh, you don't have, I've heard that argument before too. It's oh, it's the NHL. They're not truly going to target each other. Think again.
Yeah.
That's just,
Well, I feel like there's a little bit of a difference between kind of going against somebody on their weaker side or them slashing them in the knee with their stick.
Right, yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. And when I mean targeting, I don't mean truly oh, this guy's a bum left knee, let's get after him. But I mean truly let's beat the shit out of this dude for 60 minutes, and just take it and erase him from the game. And there's still some aspect of that, but to say that the instigator penalty would truly prevent that kind of thing is, I don't know.
In hockey, the noblest of sports, where every player out there is a choir boy, are you serious?
Right.
If you ask a hockey fan, they're every single one of them stand-up citizens.
Right. Moving on to 2011 and 2012, the biggest rule change that year was the head contact rule. So obviously, no being the main point of contact being the head, no launching into the player, i.e. leaving your skates. More penalties would be assessed, and more fines and or suspensions would be assessed
arbitrarily
for hits to the head. Arbitrarily, as we found out. I'll just start here. I think it's a good rule, especially for a league that doesn't necessarily admit the kind of brain damage that maybe former or current players have sustained. Also, on the downside of it, there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to what they deem as contact with the head. It's kind of like Phil said, arbitrarily deemed suspensions or fines. So I'll let Phil take it away from here.
Oh, don't have me do this again.
Yeah, it's on you, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like the main argument against this rule comes down to, well, concussions have been a part of the game for so long that I hate to see them taken out now. I don't understand the people who are against headshots being taken out of the game. I understand that there's times where it gets a little hairy and it gets down to determining intent, and there's really no perfect way to do that unless you're gonna do what the NHL always claims that they try to do, which is punish any headshot, but clearly isn't the case. So I don't know. This is one of those rules that really will... The league eventually would not exist if it wasn't in place. I understand the enforcement of it is harder than I even sometimes give credit to player safety for. But, there's a level where there is just no consistency at all. And, it just does seem completely arbitrary. Because it's not even the repeat offenders always get rung up for it. Someone else go.
Trent,
I can't do this rant again.
No. Trent, what do you think about the NHL kind of cracking down on head contact?
I think it would be awesome if they actually did it. Like you guys were saying, why not just basic rule? If you hit somebody in the head, doesn't matter about intent, punish it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You can't give people leeway, because then you can cut through the red tape. You can get around it. They just need to stick to one thing and keep it that way.
Well, one of the popular things is people say that if you do that, you have to take hitting completely out of the game. And I can only assume these people have never heard of college hockey.
Yeah, on the biggest college hockey fan here, and I have to say, like, those games are still physical as hell.
Exactly.
Like, don't let people for a second tell you that. They're like, oh, college hockey isn't physical. I dare you to watch the Gopher Badger series that just took place last weekend and tell me that wasn't a physical series.
Yeah, I don't understand this thought that you can't completely eliminate headshots without taking hitting out of the game. It's the same like with the Tyler Myers hit. Whenever a big player, like a big tall guy, hits someone, they're like, what's he supposed to do? It's like what he does every other fucking hit. Tall guys manage to hit people from the beginning of time. Tall players have managed to hit smaller players without always taking their fucking heads off. It's doable.
So,
maybe they should be a little bit more skilled if they want to make that such a big part of their fucking game.
question then.
Mm-hmm.
Should the NHL get rid of helmets?
What?
To deter people from going after the head more?
No, they tried that experiment in the 40s and somebody died.
Yeah, I'm not following this logic.
No, just, I mean, if people are more afraid of getting their head knocked in without a helmet, let them play without a helmet. It could deter people from actually going against people's heads.
Are you using, like, the rugby no pads logic here? Because I think it would deter you from wanting to get hit in the head, but not so much from wanting to hit the other guy in the head.
Well, I mean, then you get, and then the instigator rule comes into play if you do something like that. I don't know. I'm just talking shit.
I'm a little bit baffled here.
It wasn't a real thing that I agree with. I'm just saying.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'm so lost.
We talked about it a little bit, but did we talk about the Kotkaniemi hit against the Fly, where he got hit against the Flames a couple weekends ago?
We did talk about that.
I don't think we talked about it on recording, but I think we talked about it in the group chat.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where there's no arbitration. Or I don't want to say arbitration. There's no, I guess, continuity there, because there was a very similar hit the next day or that same night, and somebody ended up getting fined and suspended, and then whoever hit Kotkaniemi that night didn't.
I'd say the closest comparable to that from what we've seen suspensions for this season would be the Sammy Blais hit.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was before that, but close enough to be in recent memory when the NHL lets that hit on Kotkaniemi go.
Right. So it's very weird to me. I get what they're trying to do. It's a good, and in theory, it's like the NFL. In theory, targeting or head contact rules are good in theory. You just can't have leeway in them. You can't have gray area. You either got to say it's black or it's white. So we're going to move on from that whole discussion.
God, I just had to resist making a Tony D'Angelo joke. The wheels were turning trying to think of one.
Just shut up. 2013, the NHL requires all players to wear a visor. There are some players that ended up getting grandfathered in, and this was a change from 2006/2007 when they strongly recommended the visors. Who gives a shit? It's a visor. Wear the fucking thing.
This is part of the eliminating fighting thing, and we've said we'll do you said we'll do it as height. I thought we were talking about making Homertown history its own other offshoot thing. But yeah, I think a good episode would be focusing on rules made to minimize fighting. I think this falls into that because at that time there was, fighting was on the decline, but there was just a lot more. And then shortly after, they made the rule where you can't take your helmet off to fight, coupled with right before that making everyone wear visors. That was clearly a slow step-by-step reducing fighting in games. And I think that's what I always saw the visor thing as, was just getting rid of... You could tell who was there to fight by the guys not wearing visors.
Mm-hmm. Trent, what do you think about the visor rule?
Well, I just made a stupid stupid thing to take the whole helmet off, so I'm gonna shut up about this one.
The debate I've seen in the last couple of years since this has gone in is like, well, if you're gonna make him wear a visor, just make him wear a cage or make him wear a bubble. And like, honestly, leave it up to the players. If they want to wear a cage or a bubble, like, tell them it's an option. If they feel like they want to wear one, they wear one.
Well, and it is an
Clearly,
option.
it doesn't impede. Right, it is an option, but like, make it a more readily, like, say, like, hey, nobody's gonna say shit to you. Just if you want to wear one, wear one. Guys wear it in college hockey. Guys wear it in high school. Like, you really, there's that weird time in juniors where they don't have to wear one, but then they go play, some of these other leagues where they do have to wear one, and just making an option at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just if you choose to wear one, stay off Twitter.
No, yeah, you're gonna get fucking roasted.
Yeah.
You're gonna get roasted. I think
and that's a whole other conversation about the
it's a whole
fucking
other-
hardo culture of hockey fans that we don't have time for.
No, I mean, I think it'd be different if somebody decided to pull up in a bubble as opposed to a cage.
Not medically, not like
exactly,
for
because you see it for medical reasons, a couple times a year.
Yeah, so I don't think it'd be a big deal.
Wasn't McAvoy wearing the bubble for a while last year?
Mm-hmm.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Fucking pussy.
Every time Corrali puts on the bubble, he scores a goal.
What's up?
But every time Corrali puts on the bubble, he scores a goal, so I'm fine with him wearing one.
It's because his fucking mama tucks him in at night when he's wearing the bubble.
You calling Charlie McAvoy a pussy caught me so off guard.
I didn't set out to make that statement tonight. That wasn't part of my plan for the day.
No.
I didn't wake up. I woke up this morning, and if anything, I thought, you know what? I bet this will be another day that I get through without ever calling Charlie McAvoy a pussy. But here we are.
I can't disagree.
I was kidding.
The other...
I'm pretty sure he's been in one fight and he's lost, so.
Well,
Yikes.
you could say the same for Patrick Hornquist.
The legend Patrick Hornquist. To you, buddy.
I did not know that he got the A when he went to Florida.
There's a couple guys wearing A's on new teams. Eric Goodbronson in Ottawa.
That makes sense. There's a whole lot of young guys there. He's one of the older ones.
Not going to give it to a Kachuk.
I think he has an A, too.
He
Yeah,
does,
they
yeah.
all have.
Yeah. I think they just gave the guys who fight A's on that team. Is basically what they're doing. Like,
Dude.
because I think Borvieski had one last year.
He did.
Yeah, they just like if you fight 5 times a year, you can get a letter in Ottawa.
Did you see the fight Gabranson had the other night?
Oh, with Cassian?
Yeah.
Dude, both of those guys looked like they were winning that fight at one point in time.
They were throwing some bombs, dude.
God, I fucking hate Zach Cassian. I hope he's alright and all, but I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed watching the part of the fight where Goodbronson had him on the ropes.
Going back to our rules, the other thing that was introduced in 2013 was hybrid icing. Does anybody have an issue with hybrid icing?
Yes, kind of.
Oh, okay.
I understand the need for it. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be a thing, but you see, with there not being a universal, like, indisputable who touched the puck first rule, you see a lot of plays blown dead and called for icing, where the team who dumped it has a player that is winning the race to the puck by a mile. And that's the other, there's kind of like race to the dots or race to the puck. That gets a little bit hairy sometimes, because someone will just make a beeline straight for the line, nowhere near the puck. And I don't know, I think that it's a good rule that is not always called well. Kind of like puck over the glass. I prefer that to have some objectivity to it too. But I mean, like I said, in both cases, I understand and overall agree with the rule.
Mm-hmm. Trent, what about you with hybrid icing?
Nothing to add.
All right.
I mean, when Phil says it all, it's really the only way to take it. Sometimes it's called wrong.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the last couple of years, you have obviously implementation of things like the helmet rule, which we got a Phil rant about that the other night. I think we all don't necessarily agree with how the helmet rule is enforced.
No, the helmet rule is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
By the helmet rule, we should say that we're talking about having to leave the ice as soon as your helmet comes off.
Yeah, it's just
or when someone from the Rangers knocks your helmet off when you're in your own defensive zone and creates a 5-on-4 for the Rangers to either have a 5-on-4 there, or when you gently wave at the puck, they get a power play which they take the lead on.
Right. In 2019, they also implemented the coaching challenges. And if I remember correctly, that first year it was just goaltender interference and offsides.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they opened it up to pretty much not everything, but it's a little more ticky-tacky now. If you think one little thing, and then they've modified the offside review now. So
well, and they had always kind of reviewed like whether or not the puck went over.
Yeah, like goal line challenges or not challenges, but goal line reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, obviously the extension of it started in the 2018-19 season after the Timo Meier hand pass against the Blues, which led to one of the uglier post-game scenes that I've seen. Alexander Steen screaming at a ref as he's smashing his stick into the boards. That was a real ugly optical moment for the NHL.
That was a bad look.
Yeah. And they brought it on some of these things, like introducing reviews like at all, but then having things like that can't be reviewed. I've said it before, the NHL needs to realize by now that anything, even the most obscure thing that they leave as a hole in the rule book, will eventually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they are always a couple years behind on adding to those rules.
For sure. Trent, do you have any issue with coaching challenging or implementation of coaches challenging since it's been added?
I mean, not on coaches challenges like themselves. I think this might be a little off topic, but just the reviewing in general. I think it's gone way out of hand.
I agree.
It's supposed to be humans playing a game refereed by humans. Yes, sometimes they make the wrong call. Sometimes they make the right call when it should be called. Sometimes they make it when it shouldn't be called. Just because the rules, like the offsides rule. It happening fucking 20 seconds into the shift and then, nope, it was offsides. But just the review in general, I think, has gotten way out of hand. And it doesn't really need to happen. Just let them play.
Yeah, I think we also saw the best and worst of the challenging or review system within the last year. You had what happened the other night was it the Columbus game, the Columbus Hurricanes game?
I was gonna say we'll be definitely going into the possible malfunctions with the review rule on our actual episode next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more. But you saw what it could be at its worst. But then you also saw some stuff that it's been, there are playoff games that come down to it, and like, I don't want to say games, but there are big rulings in playoffs where I think it's important to have. But I also think the NHL has the best and quickest system that everybody.
Yeah.
Compared to the NHL and MLB, and even the NBA in some aspects of their video review. The NHL's is pretty quick. It's boom. What do you got? Okay, boom. It's relatively quick.
Yeah, as long as there's not like an intern talking out a turn on the line telling the refs that it was a good goal when it wasn't.
Yeah.
Did he get fired, or did he just get better training?
I don't know. Let's look into that before Sunday.
Yeah. Also, the other thing too is like coaches having access to the iPads is, I think, a really important part of that, so that they can go boom, look, and then be, NFL has the same thing, but it's not something that like I don't really have an issue with it. For me, it's more a pace of play thing that sometimes like, holy shit, okay, like.
Yeah.
We get it.
Especially when what you're reviewing is if a guy's foot was a fucking millimeter off the ice, which at least they got rid of that now, and I like that.
Oh, yeah.
But you look at, the Penguins benefited from it in 2017, the first goal of the finals against Nashville. That absolutely should have been a goal.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Oh, and then 2016, there was that big overtime Chicago-St. Louis one. I don't remember exactly what the scenario was, but...
Shit.
I want to say that was game one, I believe, of that series. Like, that was like the first game of the playoffs. Because that game ran so late that bars had to close in the middle of the game.
Yeah, because wasn't that... like a 4 overtime game?
It was something. It went pretty deep.
Yeah, it went real deep. Yeah. So I think we should start to wrap up this little mini episode, unless Trent has anything else, because that's everything I got for the biggest rules.
The only thing I had to add was how... Well, first of all, Colt, a question... Because seeing that you kind of agree...
Yeah.
I kind of agree that sometimes bad calls happen and you just have to live with them. Are you one of those assholes that believes in robo-umps in baseball?
No, I don't believe in robo-umps in baseball.
Because I've always thought knowing an umpire's strike zone is part of the game.
As a catcher, yes. As somebody who was used to be a catcher, yes, absolutely part of the game. That is an advantage I will take all day. If I'm behind the plate and I know what the guy behind me is calling, I'll take it all day.
And if you're a hitter, it's your job to find out.
Exactly. And I'm gonna find out faster than you're gonna find out.
Yep.
As a hitter. But I think also, like, from a hockey standpoint, I think that game moves so fast. It's very hard to be as accurate as you think you are.
Yeah.
And I do think that having the review system there as a backup is a very good thing. But I feel like certain fans have started to rely on it, where it's like, oh, well, if they don't get the right call, they'll review it. You know what I mean?
Well, and you see that, like, sometimes, like, in football, where, if there's a review of whether the ball was loose, they just let the play happen because they can turn it back and say the play was dead when he was down. They can't really go back and reposition everyone where they were standing and pick the ball back up for the fumble recovery. But then there's the inconclusive evidence rules, which, as far as I know, the NHL actually... Everyone assumes it works like football, that there has to be conclusive evidence. I don't think that's actually the case.
I legitimately think they take it millimeter by millimeter.
Yeah.
And they're just like, this is how it happened. I mean, look what Svechnikov did the other night to stay onside.
I didn't
where
even
he's
catch
doing
that.
Where he's doing the split. Trent saw it. Did you see it, Trent?
Oh, yeah. That dude... It was like watching a figure skater try and play hockey and stay onside.
He's doing... Boy. I'm not kidding. He was doing a full, stretch. I'll send you the picture, but he's, fully stretched out, trying to stay onside.
If there was a poll, he'd be getting dollars thrown at him.
And then the last thing on review, I like that they added the rule about the penalty if you unsuccessfully review a play.
I totally forgot about that.
That's the only thing about that.
Because I feel like there was a time where in the third period, if it's a tie game late in the third and the other team scores before you got a penalty for a failed challenge, coaches would just throw up a challenge as a Hail Mary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like that it's a delay of game, and it kind of makes the little strategic aspect. You got scored on, and now you're going to waste a review. Oh, guess what? You just got scored on, and now you're going on the PK.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that they
timing is
said you
everything.
better be sure if you're going to review it. And I can't remember exactly what it was. There's some case where you don't... I think it's only offsides is the penalty. Otherwise, you just lose your timeout. There was a case in a Penguins game where the other team didn't get a penalty called on them for some reason. I don't remember what it was. There is some nuance to it.
There is. I just can't... I wish I'd written down the penalty aspect because I didn't. But yeah, there is some nuance to it, and I don't think it's for goaltender interference. I think it is just for offsides because, especially if it's something like, oh well, he entered the zone offsides 30 seconds before they scored after they had set up and gone around. It's like, yeah, we're gonna give you a penalty because not only did you just waste our time, like,
yeah.
In theory, I like having a penalty aspect too if you're going to review things.
Yeah, and then just overall, I just feel like the problem with review, I overall like it, but like you said, once you introduce review into any sport, it runs away from you.
I don't know if it necessarily runs away from you. There's a reliance on it.
Yeah.
And I think we brought up baseball, and I don't want baseball to get to the point where they're relying on robot umpires to make the perfect call. But, okay, so we're going to wrap up this mini episode. I'm going to go around the horn. I'm going to start with Trent. Trent, give me one penalty that you think has... Oh, okay, we're going to go to Phil. Phil, one rule change that you think has been the biggest impact on the game, whether it's positive or negative, since 2000?
I'd have to go with video review just because there is so much positive and negative, and it's hard to say it doesn't make the biggest impact when they are still having to make rules around it.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's twofold. For me, it's obviously video review. It's hard not to say video review at this point. You know, we're only 3 years into this experiment, even though video replay has been around since 91. I don't even call it experiment. Just we're 3 years into it, and like you said, there's been a lot of positives where it's like it has taken away some stuff that it's like, okay, that is goaltender interference, or you were offsides. But at the same time, it's like it's slowing down games at some point. I also think the instigator penalty has completely changed the game in a way that we're not going back to that. People clamor for the 90s, and that's never, or even the 80s, but that style of play is never coming back.
Yeah.
So, Trent, are you ready now?
Yes.
Okay, give me one rule change since 2000 that has either been a positive impact for the league or negative. Why you think that?
3-on-3 overtime.
Oh,
I think it's been extremely.
We didn't
talk about the shootout or overtime.
Yeah.
No, 3-on-3 overtime I think has been the best way to bring in the fancy new play. Like, watch Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews or David Pastrnak or anybody just go down the ice and be able to put on the show that they can put on in practice and be able to make incredible plays. Yeah, that matter with 3 people on the ice against 3 people. The way that they just make the game flow is insane.
Do you buy into the argument? Obviously, you don't buy into the argument. Does anybody here buy into some of the argument that some people have against it, where it's like, oh, well, that's not hockey. That's just a skill competition.
No, I say that about the shootout.
That's always just.
But yeah, the 3-on-3 overtime I think is the best way to incorporate the new quick, fast style pace that everybody's trying to watch with 5-on-5 in a more opportunistic way to watch the players showcase their skills.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to showcase skill while keeping it hockey.
Yeah, 90% of the time that it's usually 2 very skilled players and a defenseman. And you're like, okay, like I could, it's, it's not like you're just throwing out 3 scrubs out there. You're getting the best theoretical lines that team could create every time.
Though I would like to see them get rid of the 5 minutes and just play 3-on-3 till it ends. Because it would never fucking happen anyways that it would go on as late as people fear it would. But I'd like to see the rare game where it does get down to seeing like your 4th liners out there in a 3-on-3.
Are you telling me you want a Ryan Reeves third overtime goal?
Yes.
Yes. Everybody wants that.
No, and not 3rd overtime. You don't divide it up at all. Instead of the clock starts counting up when overtime hits.
Holy shit.
There is no division of the periods. You just keep going until someone scores.
Ooh, that's an idea.
It's the one thing I agree with John Tortorella on.
Which we'll also get into that later this week on our normal episode.
Oh, Tortorella.
But, yeah. Anybody have anything else to add for the rest of this?
No.
All right, cool. Well, this has been a hockey hijinks. We're hoping to do more of these soon. I had fun doing the research for this one. Trent, send us out of here.
My name is Trenton Fuller, and I approve of this message.
Anal will be